Coming up today on David versus Goliath, with the aptogen, herbalism, and biohacking expert, Ashley Klein. Did I say those words correctly? I will not participate in this recession. I refuse to.
Welcome to today's episode of David versus Goliath, a podcast dedicated to helping small businesses leverage technology to not only help them compete against their large competitors, but win. Your host is currently the CEO of Anthem Business Software, a 3-time Inc. 500 recipient, and a serial entrepreneur with a passion to help small businesses everywhere find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. Please join me in welcoming your host, Adam DeGrade.
Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGrade for the David versus Goliath podcast. Today's going to be a lot of fun. Who doesn't like an ice cream social? And that's who we're going to be talking to today. The co-founder and vice president of icecreamsocial.io. It should be a lot of fun. Today's episode is brought to you by AutomateMySocial.com. AutomateMySocial.com, where if you're a small business, you can automate 90 to 100% of all your social media and never have to think about it again. Learn a lot about it today and get a special discount at AutomateMySocial.com. Make sure you visit us online at davidvsgoliathpodcast.com. There you can subscribe to receive our newsletters and apply to be on the podcast. We look forward to getting the application. Many of the people we interview here on the David versus Goliath podcast have a business, have a story. They want to share how they're taking on their own Goliath in their industry, and we love to hear about it here at the David versus Goliath podcast. Well, with no further ado, let's get right into it with Ashley. Ashley, welcome to the David versus Goliath podcast.
Hey, Adam. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here today.
I am so glad you're here. For the viewers that are watching on YouTube and Rumble right now, they're kind of mystified. They think I'm a quick change artist because I recorded the intro to Ashley's interview 2 weeks ago, and bang, we're doing it today. Different shirt. No, I'm not a magician. It is simply just a different day. So, Ashley, it is so great to have you. I am so honored. You're the vice president and co-founder of Ice Cream Social, which I spent some time with online, and I thought it was awesome. I love the name. So before I start getting into other questions, tell the fine folks what you do and how you came up with the concept with your partners and yourself.
Sure. So Ice Cream Social is essentially a widget that can bolt onto any website. And on the back end, what we're doing is collecting first-party data. And on the front end, we're incentivizing consumers to invite their friends to come back and make a purchase. So very simple. It was taking that influencer and referral marketing and gamifying it.
I thought that was awesome. So if I'm going to a conference and I buy a ticket to a conference, and now all of a sudden it says, hey, by the way, I can save some money by referring my friends to this conference, and I can immediately attach it to social media where people can click on that link and I get credit for it. Is that kind of the concept of what you're trying to do?
Yes, 100%. When we developed Ice Cream Social, it was born out of a real need. Our customers were having a difficult time selling tickets, and they didn't have more money to invest in Facebook ads. And so we created Ice Cream Social as a way for them to really optimize their marketing, grow more ticket sales, tap into an audience of people who are already buying without necessarily having to spend more money.
Yeah, it's such a simple idea. And I think some of the most genius and brilliant softwares in the world are simple. They keep it really, 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 really simple. And so does it have other practical purposes besides, concerts and venues and shows and things like that? I mean, is there a retail possible component to it, or have you explored those avenues, or?
Absolutely. Great question. So if you haven't picked up already, I do work in the event industry and do a lot of event marketing, and that's where Ice Cream Social was essentially born. And COVID hit a couple of years ago, and events became a very difficult business to be in. And we use that as an opportunity.
Especially in certain states, Ashley. Not in all states, but in certain states. That will remain unnamed. You know who you are.
Yeah. And so what we did is we had some clients who had a great retail component to their event business. And they said, you know what? can we use this Ice Cream Social on our retail store? And we thought, I guess you could. So we got our dev team to work when they didn't have much else going on. And we essentially extracted out Ice Cream Social, which at the time was just a feature inside of our Ticket Socket system, and created it to be its own standalone software.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we just did the same thing recently with our software at the company I'm currently running, Anthem Software. We built it as a full-blown CRM that handles like all these different, automations, email automation, text message automation, social media automation. Yeah. But the social media piece we built was so powerful, we broke it out and made it its own product, which is actually one of the corporate sponsors of the show. It's called Automate My Social. And the whole concept is we take a piece of what we were doing in the whole and broke it out to be a product. It's fascinating because I see even potentials with even like a product like that. Like, so a business owner comes and they sign up for Automate My Social and says, hey, by the way, let your other business owner friends know. And, for everyone you refer, you get a credit of whatever, right? I mean, that's kind of the concept of what we're trying to do, right? It's not just about, even though you come from the event industry, that's clear. I think there's so many applications to this, even to like a SaaS-based software model like myself. It has to be exciting for you guys.
Absolutely. And just like you said, I love how you guys peeled off the social media component of your CRM, because it's taking it back to keeping it simple. And in your perspective, customers' mindset and ours, they're typically looking to solve one problem. They're not necessarily trying to solve 10 problems at one time. It starts with one focus. And then, yes, you can introduce them to the other things that you do, but you got to first kind of help them solve that immediate need, get a quick win.
I have always thought that was nonsense. But you know what? The older I get, I've done this for like 4 times now. Yeah. I've always been like a completionist. So when I would go into a business and sell them something, it's like, no, you have to do all these things. You're crazy if you don't do them, which I still believe, by the way. I still believe it. And for business owners that are watching this and listening to Ashley and I, basically what we're saying is that we have to make our product so simple because you think you only need one thing, but you actually need like 10 to 15 things. And if we can get you on one piece, hopefully you can open up to the others. I wouldn't let people work with my past 3 companies, Ashley, unless they bought the whole thing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I did too. But as you start to go along in life, it gets exhausting.
It
trying
does.
to convince them what they need to do in their business. And so I find by simplifying it definitely helps. Now, Ice Cream Social, where did the name come from?
Great question. We get that a lot, but it makes for a really great story. So back in the day, before we had social media and all of these ways of communicating, the networking and the sharing of what's cool and what's not really happened at, these little events, these little small ice cream socials that they would host in the community, or, your little Mary Kay makeup parties, back in the day. And so that's really where the name Ice Cream Social came from. It's just going back to those days of true peer-to-peer recommendations.
I'm surprised you didn't name it Cocktail Hour.
Yeah.
Because at conventions, when I was working at conventions, we did 78 conventions one year at my previous business before I sold it in a year. And they were like 3-day conventions. So these aren't like short conventions. These are like long conventions. And our favorite time of the day was cocktail hour. So it was like, when you had the social environment, everyone had a few drinks. Next thing you know, people start buying stuff. The world becomes a lot better. But I do like the name Ice Cream Social. Now, I also noticed... I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
That's our secret weapon. When we're at conventions, we always sponsor a cocktail hour.
Oh, you have to. I used to sponsor cocktail hour, the nighttime party. I would always make sure that there was an ice sculpture with our logo and the conference's logo in it as well, too. That was always very helpful. Now, I noticed that I was pretty impressed about this, by the way, that you've recently received some backing. From Comcast, NBC Universal, Sports Tech, and they invested in early 2022. That's pretty cool. I mean, how did that come about?
That was really exciting for us. So working in events, we did, know a few people at NBC Sports Tech, and they mentioned to us this accelerator program that they had going on. And they said, why don't you go ahead and apply to be a part of this program? So we did, and there was over 800 other companies that applied. And essentially what NBC does is they narrow it down to the top 10. And they put us through this intensive about 4 to 5 month accelerator program with, lots of education. But most importantly, they gave us the opportunity to do a lot of networking. So they introduced us to all their different partners, WWE, NASCAR, WrestleMania, the Golf Channel, Golf Network, all of these. So we got to, go experience all of these events behind the scenes and had so much fun, but got to actually network and meet with these C-level executives where they come in with the understanding of, okay, we're going to try Ice Cream Social and we're going to create a great case study out of this for you. So they come in wanting to kind of beta test and be a part of our growth. And a part of that is they do make a nominal investment into our company, which is great, but really it's that kind of relationships and door opening.
I don't know if you could actually, the money is great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you have access to the brain trust and power like that, that's you couldn't buy access to that basically is the whole point, right? So they might make a nominal financial investment, but they make a pretty good offer in kind, so to speak, when it comes to the relationships. That must have been a lot of fun and fascinating. And how many people do you have? How many partners do you have besides yourself in the business?
Yeah, there's about 4 partners, and we have a little dev team as well, and a little onboarding team. So I think all in all, there's about 10 of us. We do share a little bit of some of our resources with our parent company, TicketSocket, but about full time, there's about 7 to 8 of us full time.
That's great. And so you're a little branch out of TicketSocket, which I was also looking at, which is pretty cool. So Ashley, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to switch gears for a minute, and then we're going to get right back into Ice Cream Social. You're with Ashley Klein, who's created some of the most amazing products on Ice Cream Social. Your handsome host, Adam DeGrade, from the David vs. Goliath podcast. It's a very special message from Automate My Social. We'll be right back.
Do you own a business? Do you have or need a social media presence? If you are like most businesses, you spend either no time or too much time and money on your social media strategy, spending thousands of dollars per month only to get mediocre and inconsistent results. This leads to frustration and, in some cases, sleepless nights. Introducing AutomateMySocial.com. Automate 90% of your social media and never have to think about it again. That's right. Automate your business's social media posting and strategy like forever. Automate the essentials and customize only what's needed. Save time, save money, and get better results with AutomateMySocial.com. Our patent-pending technology gives you the ability to automatically create your social post and distribute them immediately, like in seconds, across all your social media platforms. Stop the madness of paying someone to create, post, and manage your strategy, and let our software do the work, so you don't have to. Oh, and if you're an agency or social media manager, you too can let our software do all the work, and you can get all the credit. It will be our little secret. With AutomateMySocial.com, you can have it all. It's easy to use, never complains, and never asks for time off or more benefits. See this amazing new software application at AutomateMySocial.com. If you own a business or manage client social media and want to save time, energy, money, all while increasing your return on investment, then let's get this party started at AutomateMySocial.com.
And we're back with the Aptogen herbalism and biohacking expert, Ashley Klein. I thought that was a fascinating way to describe you. We get the sheet before the shows, and Aptogen, herbalism, biohacking. I was like, these are words I'm not even sure if I understand what they mean. Did I say those words correctly?
Yeah, pretty close. I didn't know you had that secret information on me, but yes, that is definitely an interest of mine.
Well, I want to hear about that. Our watchers and listeners not only tune in to listen to business, they love to learn a little bit about the people's lives that are in the business. So when you think, watchers and listeners, that Ashley, had a great idea. She worked in this other business for a long time. They broke out. They made it their own. They go through the process. They get accepted, top 10, NBC, Universal, throws them some relationships, throws them a little bit of cash to make them feel good. But most importantly, opens up this access. She experiences things she would have never experienced. But at the same time, life is not all about business, right? It's about a lot of things that roll into who we are as entrepreneurs and as people that work in the community. And I guess this is a passion of yours. Tell the watchers and listeners a little bit about that.
Sure. So I'll give a little background information on how this passion has just kind of blossomed into what it is and my business and how it all comes together. But growing up, like many children and some adults now, loved playing video games.
I am a massive gamer. Did you know that?
I did it.
I'm a massive gamer. I actually play Apex Legends. I'm a battle royale player. I play it 3 to 4 hours a day. And I'm serious, but I'm a ranked player. I love the game so much, Ashley, that I created a music project called Adam Music Project. You can look it up online. It's on Spotify, YouTube, Adam Music Project. I have over 1 million streams in 8 weeks. I wrote 6 songs about the game, and I just finished. I just came back from Oklahoma City, and I just recorded 11 more. So I call it the ultimate fan art project because I love gaming so much that I decided I was going to not only spend time in the games, I created a side project about the game, and I actually just am getting ready to release my very first video game that I created called Find, Serve, Keep, which is a fun game of matching 3 and serving people food and building your own restaurant. That'll be out sometime next year. And so I too, Ashley, you're talking to a gaming geek, as you can tell. So continue.
I think this is yes, I love the multi-passion and how you've all just kind of turned it into your day-to-day life and career. So you're definitely going to relate to this. But growing up, my brother and I, we had a Nintendo, and we only had one game for years. That's just all we could afford or all we had at the time. And that game was Mario Brothers. And so once you beat the game, you beat the game. And what my brother and I would do is every day just set up new challenges. Okay, how quickly can we beat the game? How much time can we shave off? The last time we beat it, how many more coins can we get? How many times can we go through without dying? Or, all those different things. We just created all these different ways to keep it fun, but continue to optimize the game. And really, that love for optimization is what, drives my hobbies. It drives my career. It's why I love marketing. There's always things that you can be doing, little tweaks that can happen to improve performance. And the same thing in my day-to-day life is I love studying, herbs, different adaptogens, all the different biohacking things. What are those little things that you can do and add to your diet or add to your fitness routine, to perform just a little bit better, to have a little more clarity, a little more focus, a little more endurance. So that's really where my love for that came from.
And that's turned over into helping perfect your product. You mentioned Nintendo. So I had, now I'm a little older than you, Ashley. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 51. And people still say to me, why do you have hair like a 16-year-old? Well, the reason why I have hair like a 16-year-old because I'm losing it. And if I'm going to lose it, I'm going out with a bang.
Yes,
that's what I tell people all the time. But we had a Commodore 64, which is anybody that's in my generation, it was like not cheap. And my brother was so talented. He would program video games on the Commodore 64 where we would have to climb up on a rope and jump over on this little thing. And so he was actually programming games when he was young. And so I learned all those statements in my Catholic school in Rhode Island. They had a little computer room with all these, things you couldn't even film now because they would flicker like terrible. And I would write, go to line 8 equals, divided by all these different things that you would program. Yeah. And so I would make a little tree, little Christmas tree would come up, automatically. And so I totally can appreciate that. And that's led me, I think, in my personal journey in software development as well, too.
Yeah.
Marketing, to always look for ways to make it more quicker. Did I just say quickie? Quicker and more. We're not talking about that stuff here on David vs. Goliath, or are we? And at the end of the day, it was very, very helpful as I went into the software world. And so biohacking is great. What do you and your development team do when you're looking at the current software? Do you try to automate things quicker? Do you try to make them smaller in file size? I mean, what are the things that you think of when you have a meeting as to how you can streamline and biohack your own software?
Great question. So part of it is, we're approaching this with a few different mindsets. We, of course, have our dev team and the person who leads that team who has a very different mindset than someone like myself who's approaching it from a marketing standpoint. And then, of course, someone from the sales and just leading the company strategy. And, from a marketing perspective, I'm always looking, what are these little things that we could do that will help all of the marketing channels? What is going to help our Facebook ads increase a little bit better? What's going to help our email open rates improve? And so looking at all the different marketing channels and what are those little tweaks that we can add to our tool, that is such a subtle difference. Because like you said, you don't want to overwhelm people. And one story that always comes to mind, love them or hate them, but I went to a Tony Robbins event probably about 10, 12 years ago. Okay. And he told this story that I'll never forget.
Hold on. If you're a business owner, how can you not admire a guy like that?
I know. I agree.
So go ahead.
Some people have strong feelings, but I like him. And he was telling this story about the world's most sought after plastic surgeon. And he was showing like side by sides of these different celebrities that he's worked on where no one would be able to pinpoint exactly what procedure this person had done. And so they're asking him, how do you do this? How do you make such a world of a difference? But no one can actually see what you've done. And the plastic surgeon was like, some people come in thinking, oh, I want, dramatically change this or that. And he's like, it's honestly, I make less than 2% little tweaks. It's just that 2% optimization can make all the difference. And so I always think about that. What are those little tiny things that could increase your revenue 1 to 2%? Because those compound and they add on and it can make a big difference over time.
I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. My brother's always told me years ago, in order to be equally loved, you must be equally hated. And so I hope that half the people watching this right now can't stand me.
Yeah.
Because that means I'm doing my job. And the other half of you can love me. And that means I'm doing my job as well, too. Well, we're going to take another break. I'm sorry, I missed what you just said. What did you say?
Oh, I said it means that you're staying true to you.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, people can smell a rat far away. And that's one of the reasons why I do a business program in T-shirts. Because I earned my way out of suits a long time ago, and I only put them on for special events. So much so, Ashley, that I actually don't own a suit. I rent them. And what's great about renting suits, Ashley, talk about biohacking and adaptogens, is that no matter how fat or thin I am at the time, it always fits. It always fits. And so, hey, we're going to take another message from another amazing sponsor. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the courage it takes to step out of what you're currently doing, to start a new venture, and even to break off a piece of your software and offer it to people. You're with Adam DeGrade and Ashley. We'll be right back.
At ISU RMAC Agency, we want to be your one responsible source for all of your insurance needs. From a rocket engineer in California to several hospitals in Illinois, our personal lines team specializes in hard-to-place risks and high-net-worth clientele. With 2 locations and 20-plus agents, we can write in all 50 states to better serve our clients with needs in multiple states. Family-owned and operated since 1962, and 4 generations carrying on the tradition of insurance. Celebrating our 60th year in the industry, we are truly proud of where we have come from and where we are going. With over 300 carriers nationwide, our agency can offer individuals and businesses more choices and better prices. ISU RMAC brings a wide variety of solutions to the table. For more information, visit us online at www.isu-rmac.com.
With Ashley and Adam DeGrade on the David versus Goliath podcast, where the small guy takes on the big guy and hopefully wins. And Ashley, you know, a lot of the things, one of the subjects we talk about here is courage. You know, a lot of people have great ideas and do nothing with them. You know, and there are aspiring entrepreneurs, both male and female, that watch the DVG podcast. And they've probably been listening for over a year, because this podcast is just over a year now. About 13,000 subscribers, and you still haven't done anything yet, but you listen all the time. And I think what's really important is I want to help those folks cross over. And then those that have amazing businesses already, how can they, to your point, biohack, increase that 1 or 2% and take those risks and chances to make themselves a little bit more profitable? And that's a big step. Now, when you founded and started TikTok, not TikTok, we all wish we started TikTok, TicketSocket, you know, that's a great venture as well too. But to take, you know, being a co-founder in TicketSocket, and then you and your partner saying, you know what, this one feature we're offering within TicketSocket is so valuable, I think it could be its own product. That's a little scary to do that as a business that's already doing well, to break it out and to go into that route. So tell the folks, what gave you guys the courage and the confidence that it was the right decision? And do you still feel that way today?
Yeah, sure. So quick story, I'll say, and what gave me the courage and continues to give me the courage is about 15 years ago, I moved to California from a small farm town in Ohio with two guys who actually were the original co-founders of TicketSocket. We moved to California, didn't know a soul. And at the time, before it was what we call TicketSocket now, it was a little web development company. So moved here. I was fresh out of high school, had $100 in my pocket. They still make fun of me because I boarded the plane with my SpongeBob pillow crying because I had never left my small farm town, moving to big city. And yeah, you get here and you just put my back against the wall, no choice but to figure things out and make it work. And while that was, you know, a scary time, I continue to do that over and over again. Whether it's, you know, within TicketSocket or Ice Cream Social or some of my other ventures, what I found, which has been kind of my biggest failure, but also the biggest success, is I have many times before built something up and almost crashed and burned. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get there. You build something up and then you're like, I'm not ready to, you know, maintain this, or, you know, it's become too big. And I've almost kind of like lit a little match under things that I've created. That's what you sell it. I know, right? And I've just kind of like watched things burn to the ground because I thought I wasn't ready to quite handle it. And so those times that I look back thinking, oh, that was a failure, I've put myself in that position many times before where it's kind of like back against the wall. You have no choice but to now figure things out and rebuild. And I think that's
a really, really, really good point. I tell people all the time, I come to life when my lifestyle is threatened. And, exactly. You know, if my lifestyle is not threatened, I find myself to be a little too comfortable. And so I'll never forget it. One of the advices that I was given by one of my first owners of a radio station that I worked for in sales, he really awkwardly and uncomfortably met me in the stairwell, cornered me in the corner of the stairwell and said, "Hey, DeGrade." He got in my face. And I'm like, yeah, I won't say his name because I don't want to cause any problems. He goes, I said, yes, sir. He goes, the best thing you can do, you have all the talent in the world. Go buy something you can't afford.
Yes.
And I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, you probably can afford your life right now, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, you're never going to be great at sales. what I would do is I'd go overextend yourself.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I said, great idea. That day I went out, bought a car I couldn't afford, went back to my wife at the time and said, hey, I bought a car we can't afford. She thought it was great. No, she didn't think it was great. But at the end of the day, it was the back against the wall. Yes. Lifestyle is threatened.
Yes.
And for me, it worked. I continue to do that to this day. Now, the mistake that you're making is you don't burn it to the ground. You sell it for whatever you can get for it at the time and then move on to your next venture, even if it's for, just for the idea, the IP,
Totally. And that was part of, just kind of taking a step back, looking at myself, seeing what my limiting beliefs were so that, yes, I don't burn things to the ground anymore. Now I see what else can I do so you don't get complacent? Because really that's what it's about, is getting complacent. You got to stay in that uncomfortable to keep that growth. And
you have to be a little uncomfortable. I was actually talking with my sales manager today about some of the things that I would have the team do, because it's a little bit of an uncomfortable moment for us right now as well too, which is fine. I've been through this 1,000 times. But you have to get to that place where even sometimes the team members are a little uncomfortable in order to grow. Now, I noticed you mentioned you're in Huntington Beach, right?
I am.
Huntington. I spend my summers in Newport Beach.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We're going to have to hang out, get a drink, have some dinner or something like that next summer. That would be awesome.
Yeah, go down to woods.
My current wife that I met her in San Diego, and the very second time I saw her was in Huntington Beach. So it's a very special place for me as well too. I love Southern California, but I hate the taxes, and I'm not a big fan of the politics. But I do love California, and what a beautiful state, and what a great place to be. Now, what advice do you have, Ashley, besides getting into debt like I just gave this advice? I'm not suggesting that everyone should do that, by the way. Don't you take this and say, Adam told me to get in debt, because that's not true. It's not for everyone. For some of you, it's probably a good idea. For many of you, it's probably not. But, what advice would you give them, Ashley, if they're at that precipice right now and they need to cross over and take that step of courage? What would you give them? Advice would you give them?
Sure. So I think this is a great question for the perfect time right now. I'm not an expert in any means, but it does seem that we could be moving towards a potential recession. And yes, recession can be a mindset, but yes, recession, it could also be a very real possibility right now.
I will not participate in this recession. I refuse to.
Well, you won't, but other people will. And that's the thing to keep in mind, because I'm sure for both of us, this is not our first recession as an entrepreneur. And the one thing that I've learned is, again, people are going to be in a place where they're struggling. And that, just like we talked about, when people are seeking out our softwares, they're looking to solve a very particular problem. And so this idea of a potential recession sounds a little odd, but it's also what has me a little bit excited. And so people are going to have their listening receptors on. And this is the perfect opportunity for you to really hone in, as an industry expert in whatever endeavor you're working on, and to really put yourself out there and, take the chances now. This is when people are going to be most open, most receptive, looking for help, and you can be the one that can be there to help them through this.
That's great advice. And your audio's got a little bit of a hiss going on right now. Hopefully my producer can dial that back. But Ashley, that is really, really, really fantastic advice. And it has been such a pleasure to have you on the David versus Goliath podcast. Have you had fun?
I had so much fun. This has for sure been one of the top podcasts I've been on that has just given me energy.
That's the point here, man. It's like, I was watching, this is not to belittle other people that do business podcasts, but let's be honest. Some of these things can be really, really boring. And truth be told, very self-aggrandizing. And some people say that I do that for myself anyway, but I don't care. Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to have fun. You got to live your life. But I heard a podcast this guy interviewed a couple weeks ago. I was just preparing for the interview and I was watching the podcast and he would give an answer and the host would go, I'm like, say something. It's like at the end of the day, you got to get pumped. You got to get fired up about what you're doing. Now, Ashley, people can find you at icecreamsocial.io. Is that it, or is it a different one?
That's it. Yes, icecreamsocial.io.
That's great. And are you on LinkedIn?
I am. You can find me by searching for my name, Ashley N. Klein. There's a lot of Ashley Kleins out there, apparently. So I always use my middle initial N.
All right. So Ashley N. Klein. You can also type in Ice Cream Social or Ticket Socket. It has been such a pleasure to have you on. Make sure when the episode comes out that you too share it on your social media. And if you know business owners, send them to me and vice versa. Ashley, it's been a pleasure to have you on the David versus Goliath podcast. I wish you the best. And we'd love to have you back on 18 months or so. Check on the progress. How does that sound?
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Adam. You definitely made the podcast experience fun.
That's awesome. Well, you got to have fun because I don't do this for a living yet, but I will. At the end of the day, it's been awesome. Watchers and listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the David versus Goliath podcast. The show would mean nothing without you. Tell a friend, hug a tree, biohack something, do some aptogen work. You all can do it. We can do it together. This has been another amazing episode of the David versus Goliath podcast. I'll see you next week. Have an awesome day.